Good evening. Thank you for tuning into our virtual meeting to share information about the two levy proposals being presented to voters on the February 8th special election ballot. My name is John Palm, Superintendent of Puyallup Schools, and joining me tonight will be Laura Marco, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Sport Services, Mario Casello, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, and Bob Horton, Puyallup Education Association President. This is my second year here serving in the Puyallup School District, and I've served in public education since 1986. I've been privileged to take part in and witness so much amazing work over the years, but these last 2 years have been like no other. Collectively, we've grown, we've learned a lot, and we've also suffered together. Puyallup has enjoyed a great reputation in our state. Although COVID has created quite a challenge for us, our community remains strong, and the historical support for schools also remains strong. The community and school system are why many of us desire to live and work in Puyallup. As a member of the community and with grandchildren in our schools, I am fully vested, as vested as I can be, in ensuring the district remains strong. So tonight I've partnered together in a virtual sense to provide information about the upcoming levies and address commonly asked questions. Ideally, we would do this in person, scheduling community engagement sessions all throughout the district. And I'm sure I speak for the majority when I say that we are looking forward to returning to a more personable level of interaction. So speaking of interaction, I'd like to take a moment to outline how the chat will work this evening. If you have a question, and we hope you do, please click on the chat option on your screen. There, you'll see a list of moderators you can submit a private question to. Ideally, we would like you to send your question to the appropriate moderators titled General, Capital Projects, and Laura Marco for our EP&O questions. Your private question will be answered, and if it's helpful for everyone, we'll be publishing those for all participants to see. We'll also verbally address some frequently asked questions at the end of the presentation as well. So before we begin, I'd like to start by acknowledging that we have a lot to be thankful for in the Puyallup School District, specifically the dedication of our staff, the partnership of our families, and the amazing students we are supporting as they prepare for their place in the world. For 168 years now, our district has been committed to excellence, but we can't do it without your help. So thank you for being here tonight to learn more and understand how you can help us in our efforts.
For 168 years, Puyallup School District has served students, staff, families, and residents in the Puyallup area. As the 7th largest school district in Washington State, our tradition of excellence is what distinguishes us, which is why we are asking voters to consider two levy proposals on the February 8th special election ballot. If passed, these two propositions will provide critical funding for operations and facilities. The 4-year replacement EP&O levy funds essential staff, like classroom teachers, instructional assistants, nurses, and counselors. It also funds essential programs and services, including athletics and activities, music and arts, advanced courses, special education, student transportation, and general maintenance of grounds and facilities. The 6-year capital levy will support safe, secure, and efficient learning environments. The study and survey report, conducted by an OSPI certified consultant, provided a full analysis of buildings needing critical repairs. Funding is needed to address the volume of work to repair, replace, or correct deficiencies. If both levies are approved, the estimated total combined tax rate change for a $500,000 home would be $23 a month. Levies are for learning and support the whole child, both in and out of the classroom. The upcoming election will help us to continue to provide quality and supportive learning experiences and spaces for Puyallup students, setting them up for success now and after high school. If passed, the replacement educational programs and operations levy and capital levy will do just that.
Now, I'd like to introduce PEA President Bob Horton to say a few words.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Horton. I am currently the president of the Puyallup Education Association. This is my 38th year in education, and I have spent the past 27 years here in the Puyallup School District, including opening Emerald Ridge High School 22 years ago, as I've spent 21 years there. Both of my children are graduates of the Puyallup School District and have returned to the area to continue their professional careers. So I'm very vested in this school district and what we do. So as Puyallup Education Association president, I presently represent more than 1,500 certified educators. So we're talking about our classroom teachers, our elementary, junior high, high school librarians, music teachers, PE teachers, counselors, nurses, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, our psychologists, our audiologists, our behavior specialists, the social workers we have in the district, as well as the instructional coaches, all of them working tirelessly every day to create welcoming, safe, and engaging learning and teaching environments for all students. As educators, we strive to build positive relationships with our students that allow us to create for them unique learning activities that require and help them meet their individual learning needs every single day. The EP&O levy will provide the necessary funds to continue to recruit and retain the best teachers for our classrooms, and also maintain our arts and education and athletic programs that we in Puyallup are so proud of. While the capital levy will allow the Puyallup School District to continue its emphasis on providing a safe learning environment for all its students and staff through upgrades to our school's security systems and buildings. As educators, we come to school each day excited to partner with our students in the learning process and continually strive to prepare our students for the next steps in their educational journey, be that moving from kindergarten to first grade, sixth grade into junior high, or our high school students as they take the next step in their lives, be it to a 2-year, 4-year college, a trade school, or into the military. Whatever that is, we are here trying to prepare them. So we ask each of you attending this town hall to join us in supporting both the EP&O and capital levy. Educators are ready to move mountains daily for their students, and with your support of these levies, you can unite with us and continue to change the lives of our Puyallup School District students daily. And with this, I would like to pass the program over to Laura Marco.
Thank you, Bob, and thanks, Dr. Palm. And good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Marco, and as mentioned earlier, I am the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Support Services. Puyallup School District is home for me. I was raised in the area and went to Puyallup schools, attending Woodland Elementary, Callis Junior High, and graduating from Rogers High School. At Rogers, I was heavily involved in our amazing CTE program, where I first developed my interest in business and finance, which helped shape my career choice and eventually led me to become an employee for the district. I am also the proud parent of a child who just graduated last year from Rogers High School as well. So I'm passionate and invested and very proud of the work we do for our communities and our schools. And now that I've given you some background on myself, I'll switch gears to sharing information about our upcoming levies. This February, we have 2 important levy propositions on the special election ballot. Proposition 1 is an educational programs and operations levy, which would replace our current EP&O levy that expires at the end of 2022. Proposition 2 is a capital levy. And before we go much further, I'm going to share some information to help explain the difference between levies and bonds and the difference between the 2 levies that we have on the ballot. So levies are for learning. They play a vital role in filling the gap between state and federal funding and the actual cost of providing critical services to students. When we think of levies, we typically think of educational programs and operations, or our EP&O levies. But we also have capital levies, which are for improvements to buildings and sites and infrastructure. Levies require a 50% plus one passage rate from the voters. And once approved by the voters, the funds are collected and spent over a period of time, typically about 4 to 6 years. While levies are for learning, bonds are for building. Major construction projects like building a new school or remodeling an existing school are typically paid for with bond dollars. Bonds can also pay for major modifications to a building to accommodate safety and security systems or technology infrastructure upgrades. Bonds require a 60% plus one passage rate from the voters. And once approved, the district holds a bond sale and receives all of the funds upfront to pay for those construction projects. The principal and interest payments on the bonds are paid back over several years, typically 20 to 25 years. Okay, so both propositions that will appear on the ballot for the February 8th election are levy propositions. The Replacement Educational Programs and Operations Levy is focused on helping to fund the day-to-day operations of the school district that aren't funded by the state. And in just a moment, we'll look more specifically at what the EP&O levy pays for. The capital levy is focused on improving and upgrading safety, security, facilities, and infrastructure district-wide, so our students and staff have safe and appropriate spaces to learn and work in each day. Together, these levies will ensure Puyallup students are provided with quality, supportive learning experiences and spaces. Okay, so what does the EP&O levy fund? More than half is used to pay for salaries and benefits that are not funded by the state. This includes classroom teachers, instructional assistants, nurses, counselors, and other positions that support the running of the school district. It also funds athletics and extracurricular activities, as well as essential programs like music and the arts. These are critical areas that are well documented at supporting the social and emotional development of our students, improving school engagement and culture, developing valuable life and career skills, and strengthening community and civic engagement. The levy also helps fund educational programs, including special education, gifted education, and other instructional programs like our AVID program that helps students succeed and prepare for college. Levy funds also pay for other day-to-day operations like utilities and facilities maintenance, instructional materials and supplies, including textbooks. And last but not least, the levy allows us to pay for staff computers and the one-to-one technology devices for our students. Our Empowering Puyallup initiative that began 4 years ago was originally intended to provide equal access for all students as a tool for increasing engagement and achievement, while also preparing them for a technology-driven world. The forethought of this program enabled the district to quickly transition to remote learning throughout the pandemic and reduce barriers for students who otherwise might not have had access to technology during this time. Many surrounding districts actually have a separate technology levy that provides these critical devices for their students and staff. However, at Puyallup, we carve this funding out of our regular EP&O levy, which helps us maintain lower tax rates. So as I mentioned on the last slide, more than half of our levy goes to covering staff salaries and benefits that are not funded by the state. I'd like to focus on that just a little more to help you understand how we are so far apart from what the state funds. We are primarily funded based on our student enrollment. That enrollment generates a number of staff positions that are funded by the state. These staff positions range from classroom teachers, librarians, counselors, and principals to custodians, technology, maintenance, and clerical staff. Not only does the state not fund all the positions that it takes to truly operate the district, but for those positions that they do fund, they don't cover the full actual cost. For classified staff, and these are the positions that support the operations of the district, we only receive about 85% of the actual salary and benefit costs of an average classified staff member. For certificated administrators, and this includes principals and instructional-based central administrators, we only receive about 71% of the actual costs. And for certificated positions like teachers, counselors, librarians, and nurses, the percentage is only about 87%. So our levy funding makes a significant impact on the amount of staff we are able to employ, which in turn allows us to offer smaller class sizes and other supports that impact the quality of education and services we can provide. For our voters, this is not a new tax. It replaces our current EP&O levy that our voters have supported for more than 20 years. And it makes up about 13% of our total revenue in the general fund, so really a significant amount. This is a 4-year levy for collection in years 2023 through 2026. And it's important to know that the EP&O levy rates cannot exceed $2.50 per $1,000 of assessed value and cannot exceed the levy amounts that are approved by the voters. This table shows both the levy amounts and the estimated tax rates required to produce these levy amounts for each year of the levy. The rate is estimated to be $2.49 in 2023 and about $2.46 in years 2024 through 2026. And again, that's the rate per $1,000 of assessed value. Okay, so what would we do without this funding? If the replacement EP&O levy does not pass, because it represents such a significant amount of funding for the district, it has a direct impact on the staffing and programs that we can offer. We would see fewer staff and larger class sizes, and it would result in a decrease or elimination of opportunities for our students like athletics and activities, extracurricular activities. Music and arts, advanced and specialized educational programs, student transportation, and general maintenance of our grounds and facilities. And now I would like to hand it over to Assistant Superintendent Mario Casello, and he is going to give you some additional information on our Proposition 2, which is our capital levy.
Thank you, Laura. My name is Mario Casello, and I have the privilege of serving as Assistant Superintendent of Operations. And similar to Laura, I am a product of the Puyallup School District. I graduated from Puyallup High School, went on to college and got my degree in education, came back to the district where I was a teacher and a coach at Rogers High School, and then an assistant principal at Rogers. And then I had the privilege of serving as principal at Callis Junior High School for almost a decade, principal at Glacier View for a short stint, about 1 year. And then I came downtown as Chief Operations Officer and most recently Assistant Superintendent of Operations. And again, similar to Laura, my oldest daughter graduated from Puyallup High School last year, and I have a younger daughter who's an 8th grader at Ballou Junior High School. So Puyallup is my home. I love it here. I love serving the staff, students, and the community, and have a great joy of being an employee here in the Puyallup School District. So Proposition 2, it's a capital levy. There are really 2 big pieces here. We worked real closely with an outside consultant last spring and conducted a study and survey. And we worked closely with OSPI to make sure that we utilize an accredited outside consultant to do that study and survey. And they toured all of our facilities throughout the district. They spent several months going through each and every facility and schools and support sites alike. They checked every single aspect of those buildings, interior and exterior, and then they gave a score to those buildings. It's called a building condition assessment score. Then we were able to collect all the data in a spreadsheet, and really that breaks it down from the consultants and helps us determine what the status is of that particular facility. What are those challenges? What are those issues with each one of those buildings? And we really have to address those. So again, this kind of became a very important document for us from these outside consultants. It then looks at the observed deficiencies. So we look at between 0 and 20 years. 0 to 5 years is those observed deficiencies, things we really need to address right away. And then 6 to 20 years is kind of those predicted deficiencies or issues that we need to address between years 6 and 20 years. So we are really focusing on this levy, those observed deficiencies between 0 and 5 years. We then broke it down into 2 different elements: program upgrades and life cycle upgrades. So I'm going to give you examples of 2 different types of scope of work that we would look at to improve or upgrade at all of our schools and support sites. Then we'll follow up with several slides that kind of show the focus of those different schools in each region, Region 1, Region 2, and Region 3. That'll show us the dollar amount of how much work we would do at each one of those schools to give you an idea. But these first 2 slides really break it down into those 2 categories. So when we talk about program upgrades, we're really focusing on safety and security as our first element. So looking at the upgrades for fire protection infrastructure, looking to enhance our security intrusion systems. If somebody was to break in to a particular facility, these are the upgrades to those intrusion systems so that it alerts our law enforcement and our own district team. Security fencing and gates. Again, very important on the perimeter of all of our campuses and schools and sites to have good security fencing and gates. We would look to replace our security cameras. Every one of our sites has a certain number of security cameras. They have a life cycle associated with them. So we would look to replace those security cameras or make appropriate upgrades. Our lockdown visual notification systems for large spaces. So again, anytime we were going to have to engage a lockdown procedure for staff and students at a school, that is done over the intercom system. And if you're in a big space like the gym, the commons, or our music classrooms, there's a lot of noise going on in those spaces, and it's not always easily to hear those announcements. So we would put a visual notification system in. It's basically a visual alert, like an orange or a yellow alert system that would flash. Therefore, anybody in those spaces would see that flashing alert and know it's time to go into a lockdown procedure. We'd also look to address a lot of traffic flow issues at identified schools. Again, if you were to drive around at the beginning of the day on drop off or at the end of the day for pickup, we have several traffic challenges at a lot of our schools. So we would look to address those traffic issues at those identified schools, which is a great number listed on that document. Field improvements. At each one of our elementary schools, we look to make improvements on the playground. Climbing structures at most of our elementary schools would be replaced or upgraded. And then each one of our elementary playground climbing structure surfaces is either wood chips or pea gravel. So we would look to replace all of those with a rubber tile system, which is much softer and safer for kids if they were to fall down. And then at the same time, having the wood chips on a lot of our playgrounds, a lot of our students get little wood scratches or whatnot from those wood chips. So that would eliminate a lot of that. And that rubber tile system is just much safer and a better way to go. We look to install a lot of paved walking paths throughout various sites, elementaries, junior highs, and high schools. And then at the junior high level, all weather tracks. Again, all of our junior high tracks, we have 7 junior highs, are a sandy kind of red cinder material. And obviously in Western Washington, the weather's not always cooperative, especially these times of months, during these months. And so a lot of our track meets or cross country are canceled or delayed. A lot of our students during the day, during health fitness classes, are not able to use those tracks. So we would look to install an all-weather track at all of the junior highs, which would make it much more user-friendly for them. And then at the elementary level, we look to install and update our audio-visual systems. All of our bond schools already have that from the 2015 bond. and many other elementaries also have had the upgrade to audiovisual, but not all of them. So we make sure that all 22 elementary schools have the same audiovisual systems. Next slide, please. So this is the second kind of big category, which is condition improvements. A lot of different areas fall within that. And again, every one of our schools would receive some level of this type of work. Technology network improvements. So intercoms, phones, data, voice cables is obviously super important to be able to communicate to staff and students throughout the day. So making sure every school has those improvements at those sites and be able to identify and make improvements to all the intercom phones is super important. Make improvements to our heating and cooling systems. Obviously, this is very important area that we want to make sure that all of our systems are running efficiently and up to standard. Especially during these COVID times, we know the importance of good air ventilation. We look to make a lot of improvements and upgrades to boilers, heat pumps, cooling towers, and our building control systems, which allows our heating, ventilation, air conditioning team to be able to address a lot of these issues over the computer through a software system so that they're able to address them in a more timely manner and not have physically get in their car and drive to those sites, which takes a lot more time and effort. If they can do that, they're going to help address those building systems again in a more efficient way. We'll look to replace critical deficient roofs, flooring, and lighting throughout the district. Most of our schools need some work in these areas, so we'll make sure we make all those improvements at those sites that were identified from that study and survey. Door hardware upgrades throughout the district. Again, we talk about the number of schools we have, 34 total, with our support sites, upgrades of about 20 buildings there. So making sure we have the appropriate working door hardware is really important. It's a safety and security element as well. So we'll make sure that we address those. We look to consolidate our bus transportation facility and maintenance facility. So again, I talked about that consultant going around the district and identifying the building condition assessment and giving each facility a score. Well, our maintenance building has not had any type of upgrades or improvements in over 30 years. So it's the lowest scoring building in the district. So we look to replace that building at the same time. And it's a goal of the Puyallup School District to try and get our transportation department on one site. So right now we have two different sites, one on South Hill and one in the Valley. And we would look to consolidate that and have one site for our transportation facilities. So that is something that we'd be able to achieve through some of these levy dollars. Portable improvements. We have a lot of portables throughout the Puyallup School District. So we look to make a lot of improvements with the walking ramps, the roofs, their heating systems as well, windows, and also look to do some interior and exterior painting. Our support site improvements, various end of the life of each one of the equipments there. So we talked about a lot of improvements at the school. Well, our support sites are also in need of a lot of work on their roofs, their heating and cooling systems as well, flooring and lighting. So for our support staff and those support sites, it's important for us to make those improvements well so that they can serve our schools in a more efficient way. And then overall building an envelope, which is outside of the buildings. So we would look to do some painting, cleaning, and sealing of our exterior buildings, especially those schools that have brick. We do a lot of the cleaning up of that and be able to seal that brick better. And we need to go throughout the district and really just look to make a lot of improvements on the exterior areas of those buildings. Windows is one of those as well. So next slide, please. So the next three slides really break down by region. So this is a list of Region 1 schools, and you can see the cost breakdown for each one of the schools. Again, associated with the study and survey, the type of work that needs to happen. We went over the different areas on those first two slides. And so each one of the schools in each one of these regions would get some form or fashion of that work associated from those two first slides. So again, these are all the Region 1 schools. You look at Edgerton, would receive about $2.4 million worth of work. Hunt Elementary School, 3.2. The two bond schools on there, right there, Pope and Sunrise, obviously wouldn't receive any dollars because they were 2015 bond projects. They don't, there's no need for any improvements there. Ridgecrest would receive 2.5 million. Wildwood, 1.3 million. We invested a lot of money in the last few years at Wildwood with a new roof, a lot of improvements inside, a lot of issues we addressed with their HVAC system. So we've done a lot of work at Wildwood already, but there's another $1.3 million worth of work that we could do there. Ferrucci Junior High School is also associated with the 2015 bond project. It was one of the state match projects. So we're doing an addition there, as well as a lot of improvements to the entry of the school and the drop-off pickup area. But still, we got about $1.6 million worth of work we could do at Ferrucci. And then Glacier View, $2 million. And then Emerald Ridge High School, around $3.9 million. And then these are the schools associated with Region 2. Again, you can kind of see the list there. Burlette would be about 3.4 million. Carson, 3 million. Desi and Fir Grove Elementary are both bond projects, so no work needed there. Woodland, about 4.9. Zyger, 3.1. Bellew, 6.9. Bellew and Stahl are also associated with the 2015 bond project. They were both also a state match where we did additions there and some minor improvements. But there's still obviously some work that we need to do at both of those schools. And then Rogers High School, 6.2 million. And then Walker High School, about $500,000 worth of work. And then finally, Region 3, we can see the schools there. Fruitland Elementary, about 4.8. A lot of traffic issues that we would address there at Fruitland associated with those dollar amounts. Karshner Elementary, 2 million. Maplewood, 6.3. Meeker Elementary School, a little over 2 million. Mountain View, 3.2. Northwood was one of our 2015 bond projects, nothing associated there. Shaw Road, 1.3. Spinning, 2.7. Stewart Elementary, 3.7. Waller Road, 3.3 million. Alien Junior High School, about 2.9 million. Edgemont, 2.4 million. And then Callis, 2.3, and Puyallup High School, a little over $3 million. So again, each one of our schools is really going to see benefits from this levy associated with all those work, all that work again I talked about in slides 1 and 2. And then this one here is kind of a breakdown of kind of some of our other areas. District-wide overall, again, you see $15.1 million. This really benefits all the schools. Again, it's kind of tied into those first 2 slides. Crosswalk flashing beacons would be part of this. Every one of our schools has some type of walking system to the schools. Some of them cross big, more highly traffic roads than others. So looking to install crosswalk flashing beacons is really important there. The intrusion alarm systems that I talked about earlier. Our locking hardware is really important. When we talk about our key coring system at all of our schools, making the appropriate upgrades and improvements there. Access controls, again, allows our HVAC team to be able to address a lot of HVAC issues through an access control system, get on the computer and be able to address that instead of having to get in their car and drive to the site and waste a lot of windshield driving time to get there, open up a system physically. Instead of having to do that, they can do a lot of the improvements and adjustments over the computer system. So they got to have access through the access control system. And then, of course, we have a lot of portables in the district. So being able to make appropriate adjustments and improvements to our portables is really important. And then a lot of our schools would get reader board replacements. Each one of our schools has an electronic reader board. Those have a life cycle kind of associated with them. So we look to make replacements appropriate to those. And then Spark Stadium's $2.4 million. We look to install some security cameras there to help with safety and security. And then also stabilize our next round of dollar amounts to replace the turf at Spark Stadium. Every 8 to 10 years, we have to replace our turf at our field turf stadiums. So we would make sure we have the money prepared to make that replacement. And then our phase one of the transportation / maintenance plan, it's about $15 million. Again, our goal is to have one transportation site. Right now we have one in the valley and we have one on South Hill. We spend a great deal of money with going back and forth between the two sites, having mechanics go up on South Hill, get buses and bring them down to the valley to work on them in the bus garage. We only have one fueling station and bus wash system right now, which is in the valley. So we really look to make those improvements, be able to get all of our buses up on one site. Right now we have about 175 buses in our fleet. So making sure that we can get most of those buses all on one site and be more efficient with our mechanics, with our fueling and all those pieces. So the goal is to have one site there and be able to serve the district more efficiently. And then overall, just our other support sites that I kind of talked to, and again, those first two slides would be about $2.9 million worth of work with heating and ventilation systems, roof, windows, flooring, all those different areas. Next slide, please. So without this funding, what would happen if the 2022 levy did not pass? Again, you saw all the different projects associated on those first two slides. We're talking about $125 million worth of projects. But from that study and survey, we were a little over $500 million worth of projects. So if this levy were not able to pass, when we talk about those observed deficiencies between 0 and 5 years, we would have a big challenge in trying to address those deficiencies in each one of our schools and buildings without the support of this 2022 levy. So again, it would bring a great deal of challenge for us. And at the end of the day, in the Puyallup School District, we always want to make sure that our facilities are set up in the right way to help staff and students be more successful in their jobs of teaching and learning. So we are very dependent on our levies and have been very successful over the last 20 years in the Puyallup School District. So our hope is that we can continue that effort. Next slide, please. And then the last slide is talking about our future. So when we talk about the future of the Puyallup School District, levies are a great deal of support in helping us in all those areas that I talked about. But we talk about the future for bonds. Bonds are really big construction projects, taking on a bigger scale scope of work. And right now we have a 2021 Citizen Facility Advisory Committee that has been meeting since last June 2021. We're meeting about twice a month. And in March, we'll be making a recommendation to our school board and Dr. Palm on what the next bond package could entail. And so that committee has been reviewing data that's been received from that study and survey from that outside consultant. And we've really been analyzing that and vetting that data to help us understand the conditions of all of our facilities and really trying to identify those facility and program deficiencies throughout the district and what we need to consider to help us make good decisions on our next recommendation, looking at growth in those aging facilities. So our priority is, again, is facility needs and recommending to the board and Dr. Palm what the next bond package really would entail and help us making sure that we are setting the district up for success for supporting students and staff. So that's it with our capital. I'm going to turn it back over to Laura Marco, and she'll talk a little bit about the tax rates and the finances associated with that.
Thanks, Mario. Lots of great information on the capital levy. And as Mario mentioned, the capital levy is for $125 million total, which would be collected over 6 years, starting in 2023 through 2028, with collections at $20.8 million for each year. And these are also on this table, the estimated rates per $1,000 of assessed value that homeowners would pay. And with the passage of both the EP&O and capital levies, these would be our total tax rates. In 2021, our total rate was about $4.26 per $1,000 of assessed value. In 2022, which is the election year, we have a decrease of about 26 cents because of a step down in both our bond and current operating levy rates. In 2023, which would be the first year of collection for the EP&O replacement and the capital levy, the rate would increase to $4.56. And in just a moment, I'll share with you what that change means for our average homeowner. But first, let's look at how our tax rate compares with our neighboring school districts. As we saw in that previous slide, the total tax rate in 2021 was $4.26. At that rate, there is only one neighboring district that has a lower total tax rate. If we were to pass both the EP&O levy replacement and the capital levy, the new tax rate of $4.56 would only bump us up one spot. 4 of our neighboring districts would still have higher tax rates than Puyallup, and 3 of those are significantly higher. So what we are proposing here is still very conservative compared to our neighboring districts. So what does this mean for our average homeowner? Right now, the median home value in both Puyallup and Pierce County is about $500,000. So homeowners in 2021 paid about $2,130 for the whole year. In 2022, which is the election year, we have a decrease in the rate to $4, which means the average homeowner will pay around $2,000. And with the passage of both levies, the total tax amount for the average homeowner starting in 2023 would be about $2,280, which is an increase of $280 from the prior year, which works out to be about $23 per month that taxpayers would pay in 2022. And that's $23, just to make that clear, $23 more per month. So what you can do for this election. In preparation for the election, please register to vote if you haven't already. And then remember to vote by 8 p.m. on February 8th. We have lots of information to help you learn more about this election. Please check your school newsletters or refer to our website. We have 2 more town halls. There's one next Wednesday and Thursday, which is the 19th and 20th, and all of them start at 6 p.m. Families will be receiving an informational flyer in the mail within the next week. And there's also levy pamphlets available at each of our school buildings and support sites. And you can also contact our communications department with questions, and their contact information is on the next slide. And at this time, we have a few questions that we can answer that have been coming through in the chat. And actually, I'll take the first question here. We often get the question about, I'm someone who's on a fixed income, and so, is there any relief for paying my property taxes? And financial assistance is available for low-income seniors and people with disabilities or other qualifying circumstances. To see if you qualify for tax relief or exemption or a deferral, you can contact the Pierce County Tax Exemptions Office. I'll give you the number here. It's 253-798-2169, or you can actually visit their website on the Pierce County Elections website for some more information. And Mario, do you have a question to answer?
I'm looking in the chat right now, Laura. I don't see any on my screen here. Are you seeing any, Laura, from your side?
I just have a couple more. One question is, I don't have any kids in the district, so why should I vote for these levies? And, as a community, it's really important to support our students. Great schools increase property taxes, they decrease crime, encourage families and other residents to be engaged in the community. As I drive through the city, I see a lot of real estate signs that advertise a home for sale as a home in the Puyallup School District because it's a selling point. We have a long history here in the district of excellence And, you know, what better investment do we have than our students? So, you know, great schools build great communities. So that's what we would have. That would be our answer to that question. And then also we have a question come up about, do multifamily complexes or like apartment buildings pay property taxes? And yes, the property owners of those, either a duplex or an apartment complex, they do pay the property taxes. And then that is the amount that they charge their renters would include the amounts for property taxes. That would be considered as part of the amount that they charge for rent. Any other questions from you, Mario, or even maybe one from last night that was a good question to answer?
Yeah, because I don't see any in my chat in regard to the capital side of things, but
Okay. Maybe
you know,
just a good reminder to folks that may come in late, if they have a question, to direct that in the chat down below, and we will get those questions answered for them.
yeah.
But again, yeah, I'm not seeing any others as well.
No.
So, Dr. Palm, do you have any parting words?
Sure. First of all, I did want to check and make sure we didn't have any additional questions out there. But if we do, like Laura had mentioned, please email those to our communications at puyallup.k12.wa.us website. And we will make sure and have a staff member follow up with you. We are offering a couple of more of these virtual information sessions next week. In addition to that, we've been presenting at some of the community in town, such as Rotary and Kiwanis and a few others. So please be sure to engage and ask questions. We want to make sure accurate information is out there on these two propositions. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end the session, and we'll probably leave it going just for a few minutes in case people are finishing up any responses. But we thank you for participating this evening and for spending your time to learn more about the Puyallup School District and what we're doing to plan for the future here and in serving our kids and our families. So thank you and take care.